Hello and welcome to the ninth episode of the Watch It Bro podcast. I am Tristan,
And I am Marshall.
and today we are going to be looking at the greatest vacation movie, Vegas Vacation.
Yes, I agree. This is the best one, followed closely by Christmas Vacation.
Absolutely. I watched it again last night and came to the same conclusion that yes, I hadn't seen it in a while, but yes, I was in fact right in my statement that this is the best vacation movie.
So,
But
fun fact: when Chevy Chase was pitching doing a fourth Vacation movie, he pitched the idea of Swiss Family Griswolds, where they would be stuck on an island like the Swiss Family Robinson, and that quickly changed to Vegas Vacation.
I'm really glad that that didn't happen.
I was thinking that too. Like, yeah, I'm glad they went this way with it.
But Christmas Vacation 2, I think, is like that because Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie gets stranded on a desert island.
Yes, that is where that premise came from that original pitch for number 4. And I have not seen Christmas Vacation 2, and I am reluctant to see Christmas Vacation 2.
I'm not watching it. I read the plot of it and I'm like, it just keeps getting worse. Yeah,
Cousin Eddie's fun. We don't want a whole movie of him.
no, he's not a lead. He's very much a supporting character. All right, should we get into the specs of this movie?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so
Do
we
your
have
thing.
okay, Vegas Vacation, directed by Stephen Kessler. Story was by Elisa Bell and Bob Duxey. This was released February 14th, 1997, 7 years after Christmas Vacation.
And it's the only one not to have John Hughes credited as in the credits at all for like characters or anything.
Literally, my next note was this is the first vacation movie that John Hughes had nothing to do with.
Sorry. I'll
No,
let
it's
you do your I'll let you do your thing. I'm like, I wonder if he knows that.
of course. Of course I knew that. It's starring Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Marisol Nichols in her debut film, Ethan Embry, and of course the lovable Randy Quaid. You look unsure of the word lovable.
His characters are lovable.
I should have said and Randy Quaid as the lovable cousin Eddie.
That works.
All right. Yeah, so let's get into the movie. So it starts out, we got the Warner Brothers logo. You hear a radio DJ talking. I didn't write down what he says because I didn't realize the movie had started yet. And and it basically comes down to, and now here's Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. And it opens up to Clark driving, singing along the wrong words to Good Vibrations. And he clearly doesn't know the song as well as he thinks he does, doing that whole singing along, but you kind of
Yeah.
mumble everything because you don't actually know the words. And it's not like that's a hard song.
No, no, it's not.
And so he's on his way home, we assume, and he's opens up a brochure for Las Vegas while he's driving. And I mean, we're right out the gate with some great visual comedy.
Yes.
And that's one thing. I mean, going forward into the movie, I I had to just I would have been pausing the movie every 2 seconds because it's so many rapid fire jokes in this film that there was no way I had time to write them all down.
Yeah, this movie just kinda goes
It
and
does,
keeps going.
and it just
And
talk.
no, no, we were talking over each other.
I know I stopped so you could finish.
I lost my train of thought, but yeah, there's a lot of jokes.
Yeah, it just keeps coming at you, and it basically it's a movie that takes you along for the ride.
Yeah, yeah, and even the joke when he's driving very erratically home because he's reading a map, and you get the kid, "Oh, hey, Mr. Griswold." Like, this
So
is commonplace for him.
yeah, and the kids are still playing in the street despite his reputation. Actually, with the way he drives, it might be the safer place to be.
Yeah.
So he very quickly pulls into his driveway, steps through a bike, like obstacles, gawks through the door, knocks over a lamp, and it's yeah, you're in slapstick visual comedy right away.
Yeah.
Stuff's getting knocked over. It's just it's silly. And so he calls the family together for an announcement. He hands them all cookies.
Yes. So the exterior was the same house from Christmas Vacation.
Yes, it was.
I don't know if that interior dining room was. It didn't look familiar, but they could have been upgraded a little bit. But that was the same house on the outside, at least.
Yeah, it might have been the same interior.
Instead of looking at it through a Christmas lens with all the decorations or snow, or it just seemed more bright and spacious.
Yeah, it's possible. It's been 7 years since Christmas Vacation, so I mean, they even cast the kids as if 7 years had passed since the last one. So a lot of people do, especially with Clark making the money that he does. It would make sense that he would have upgraded his house throughout the 7 years.
Right. And they needed the kids to be older for this one too, in
Right.
general, because they're going to Vegas.
Well, and because Clark does not look young enough. Well, they're aging. Everyone's aging.
True. True.
So having,
But I mean, the kids were all over the place in the other three movies because the premise was the kids don't really matter. They're just there as beings.
yeah, they're basically the age they're basically what they need him to be for the roles written in the movie.
Yeah.
Because like in the first Vacation, what Anthony Michael Hall is like what 14,
Yeah.
and then in Christmas Vacation, 4 years later, he's 11 with Johnny Galecki.
Yep. And then he's 17 in this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be 17. So they eat the cookies, and the cookies are very good.
Yeah.
And then Clark reveals that they are, in fact, 4 years old. And they all spit out the cookies because, yeah, you would.
Yeah.
And then he holds up little baggies of milk and says, "This is milk. It's 8 years old." And then he announces that his food preservation patent has been bought and he got a huge bonus for it. And he is taking them on a trip to Vegas.
And he shows them the brochure.
Yes, and they are completely unamused by that. The kids are both like, we're too young to do anything in Vegas. And Ellen is basically says, that's great, but that's not really a place for families. And he shows her the brochure that says it's the number one spot for vacation spot for families right now, and shows the brochure with the happy family in Las Vegas.
The kids don't look all that too happy in the brochure.
No, the kids don't look happy at all. But he's looking at the parents.
Yeah. They're happy and there's kids there, so it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, family spot. The brochure says so. Let's go to Vegas. That's pretty much all Clark needs. He's not the brightest bulb in the chandelier by any stretch of the imagination. And so they sit down at the table to discuss the trip further. And Chevy Chase is great. He's pleading his case. He's great with the visual effects of getting the cookie and opening the milk. And while he's pitching his trip to Vegas, he's talking and he goes, "You kids have grown up so much, I hardly recognize you," which is definitely a joke and a reference to the fact that like they change kids. I mean, we just talked about that. They've changed the kids every single movie, and there's no consistency with actors or ages of the kids. I think
Yeah.
in a couple of them, Audrey's older, and a couple of them, yeah, Christmas Vacation. I think Audrey's older,
Yeah.
and then in this one, Rusty's older.
Yeah.
I think
I
in
think
the
Rusty's
first,
older in the first one too.
right, and I think in European Vacation, Audrey's older again. I don't know. So yeah, and he's eating the milk and cookies and just like making a mess all over everything.
He's really what's the word he's got his preservative patent. That milk is clearly not good because of the face he makes when he drinks it the first time, but he keeps going back to it. He's like, "Nope, I'm gonna drink this."
We got to
It's good,
stand by it.
yeah, you gotta stand by his product.
Yeah, actually, I did catch the face that he made. I think I was writing at the time because one thing Chevy Chase is great at is his ability to like say his lines and act while doing things with props. It's a very
Yeah.
good prop actor, which not easy to do.
No, no, it's not.
I mean, I don't have any personal experience, but I I would assume that having to worry about props and stuff would make it harder. I don't know. So going forward, I guess he convinces them. I mean, no, he's already booked everything and
Yeah,
set it up.
and the brochure kind of made Ellen go like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, so she's kind of on board, and so it cuts to them on the plane.
Yes, it
Yes?
does. Nothing.
You look
Nothing.
like you were about ready to chime in with something.
No, no, I just when I was watching it and, they were on the plane, the Griswolds had the 3 middle seats and then an aisle and then Rusty.
Well, no, Rusty's in the same row.
Oh, that's right, he is. I thought
Yeah.
there was an aisle between them.
No, no, no. So Clark suggests to Ellen that they become members of a very limited and exclusive club of airplane folks, and she reluctantly agrees. And so she gets up and heads to the restroom.
Do you want me to say what they're about to try and do?
They're about to go do their taxes. Or were you going to say whoopee again?
I was gonna say get their swerve on.
Get- I I like the way I said it. They're going to go try to join a club.
Yes, yes.
And so Clark tries to discreetly get up and follow Ellen, and he's passing by Russ, and Russ has his earphones in and yells, "Where are you going, Dad?" And Clark, "Oh, your mom's got something in her eye. I'm gonna help her out with that." And so he sneaks off and kind of very, very suspiciously stands by the bathrooms. Open opens one, walks in, and then walks back out as a little kid is coming out.
Yeah, and while I was watching the movie, he's standing there, I mean, his head's above the doors
Yeah,
of these. I'm like, "Man, how tall is he?" And he's 6'4".
really.
Yeah. I looked it up, I'm like, "Is he just tall is he taller? Do they make this he's tall, he's 6'4".
Okay, I didn't know he was that tall. I thought he was about 6 foot. I didn't
Yeah,
know he was.
yeah, he's
Okay.
tall.
Yeah, well, and then so when he gets the right door next, you see him bonk his head on it um, as he's entering the restroom. Those bathrooms are small.
Yes, as we learned in Tommy Boy.
Yes, this is our second movie that has a comedic bathroom scene. This one involves two persons. And so they fumble around for a bit. I'm assuming unsuccessfully join the club.
Yes, yes, what, Ellen gets her foot stuck in the toilet, and Clark shoves his hand in to help get her out.
Right. And so her leg is blue and
His
arm
arm is blue.
his arm is blue.
Which he he says when they get out the plane, "Oh, a pen exploded."
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. This
Sorry, sorry,
so
I'm moving forward.
you are because they eventually it cuts to them coming out of the bathroom and the whole plane applauds. So maybe they did join the club. I don't know.
Yeah,
But clearly everybody on board knew what was going on. They land and they're coming out, and the kids are both giving them a hard time
yeah. Audrey's
because,
like, "Well, we'll wait if you wanna go to the bathroom here too."
yeah, that's another thing I'm liking about this movie so far is there's adult situations, but it's handled and referenced in a very family friendly way to where kids aren't gonna pick up on it.
Right, and I think this is the first vacation movie where Audrey and Rusty get along the best. They they're not bickering with each other or not yelling at each other. They seem to get along better in this movie than the other ones.
They do. I think so. I think you're right on that. Anyway, so they're going, and there's a limo driver holding a sign that says Griswold. And this is where Clark says, "Oh, a pen exploded." And the
Yeah.
limo driver says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I don't think he believes him, but
No. Your arm is blue from your elbow to the tips of your fingers. A pen explode.
must have really exploded.
Yeah, it gets better later.
Yes, it does. That's in my notes too. And so so they get in the limo and they're driving down the strip. And I love that they did this. They had like a little montage, if you will, where they're playing some music and they're showing the family driving down the strip in the limo, and they're showing all the hotels and
Yeah,
on
montage
the way down.
is the right word, but it's that classic Vegas scene whenever anybody gets to Vegas in a movie, they're all wide-eyed looking up at the lights.
Right. But this one
No
did
one
a
can
good
see
job
me.
of showing all the casinos and the hotels, kind of like a time capsule, because a lot of Vegas is ever changing.
True.
There's a lot of those hotels that aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even think the Mirage is there anymore.
As never having been to Vegas, I couldn't say.
I went once, I lost, and I didn't even gamble. I ain't going back.
That's a big loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, Clark's looking at all the all the casinos, eyes wide, very happy, very eager to win some money.
Okay, the mirage is still there.
Okay, well, it looks like Ellen and Rusty are just, "Oh, this is cool, the lights are everywhere," and Audrey can't see out the windows.
Right, yeah, Audrey can't see, so she opens up the moon roof and climbs out, and Clark he tries to roll down his window or roll up his window or something, but closes closes the moon roof on Audrey, and she's freaking out and banging on the top of the limo, yelling, "Daddy, Dad, open up, Dad!" And Clark's got no idea.
He's got
And
dollar signs in his eyes, he's like, "I'm gonna
yeah,
win so much."
yeah, he's just oblivious to it. And another limo comes up beside him, and it's a bunch of girls cheering with champagne. And Audrey, bless her heart's trying so hard to like not seem like she's dying. So she's like waving her arms and coughing.
The girl's like, "Woo!" and they drive off.
And finally, Clark notices and opens up, and she drops down, so you could actually tell that she had climbed up and was hanging from the moon roof.
Yeah, they showed her feet dangling there.
Yeah, so she wasn't just closed on her, like she was dangling from it, which, ouch.
Yeah. Well, they show her she lifts up her shirt a little bit, she got this mark right on her stomach.
Big old red
Yeah,
line. And that's after they get to the hotel, and Ellen's like, "Well, it's not permanent, honey. Don't worry."
yeah.
And so they get to the hotel and get checked in, and and the clerk attendant behind the counter,
The receptionist.
the receptionist mentions Clark's arm, and he's like, "Oh, it's a birthmark."
She just she just smiles and nods.
It's- which a bird it's clearly the sleeve of his suit is also blue. So
Just just fake it till you make it, right?
he's thinking on his feet and it's not working well. But at least people are polite. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they get all checked in, and she starts with her directions.
Yes.
And this is the most confusing directions I think I've ever heard. Did you write it down?
I did not write it down, but fun fact, those are the actual directions in that hotel to get to the rooms.
It what?
Yes.
Do they tell it to you like that?
They give you a map normally, but yeah, you have to go through the casinos and down this way and up this way. Don't go to those elevators. Don't go to the gold elevators. Go to the other elevators.
No,
Yeah, that
oh,
no,
I
the
thought the
gold
gold
elevators.
elevators are the right ones.
Yes, if you go to the other elevators, you're too far. Anyway, yes, those directions are accurate to get to the rooms at that casino.
That's hysterical. And it's hysterical that you said they give you a map because Rachel was like, "You should give him a map."
Also, now that they're checking in, fun fact: they were originally going to be staying at the Wally World Hotel and Casino.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, it's this movie has the least connection to Wally World, where Clark's wearing a Wally World shirt in European Vacation most of it. They're going to Wally World in the first one, and there's the little trinkets and stuff throughout Christmas Vacation. There's only one character in here named Marty after Marty the Moose, and I think
Okay.
that's the only time that Wally World gets brought up.
All right. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Because I didn't even think about Wally World this whole time. But
Yeah,
now that you
yeah,
mentioned it, yeah.
but yeah, they were originally going to have him staying at the Wally World Hotel and Casino.
That would, I'm actually glad they didn't. I'm glad that it was kept true to just Vegas.
Yeah.
And so as soon as they leave from the desk, they all go one way, and Russ turns and goes the opposite way. Clark grabs him this way. So then they do, I guess, another montage to the casino, which a lot of montages in this movie.
Yes, a lot of montages in this movie.
But I like
Um,
it. I like that they showed the walk through the casino, and you really get to see what a hotel casino looks like in Las Vegas.
yeah,
It really sets up where they are, and I think it really nice showing of Las Vegas.
yeah,
It's important details that they really could have glossed over entirely, but I think the montage was the right way to go, to where it, it sets up the scenery and the location. Was this filmed in Las Vegas?
I believe so.
It was filmed on site.
Yeah, yeah, it was filmed on site during the busy season in September. I remember reading that
Perfect.
somewhere. Yeah,
Okay, good of them to do that during the busy season.
As much people as they can in there.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so, yeah, so then we're up in the room, and Clark's looking out the window, and he's like, "Oh, let's Ellen, let's call the kids,
See how they're doing.
see how they're doing." And so she picks up the phone, and yeah, I guess it connects straight to the front desk, and she's so Rusty and Audrey Griswold, please. And it connects over, and you show them answer the phone, and they are not impressed or amused with
Yeah,
this
they're just lying on
whatsoever.
the bed they've been out at Wally World for 6 days, just like, they look exhausted and tired and bored.
And then
And then
as Audrey answers the phone, and she's like, "Really? We're right next door." And then the camera pans over and shows Ellen like peek her head through the open door.
because
So
those
it's
hotels have those conjoining doors that
right. And so like it's like the door wasn't even closed. Like the conjoined door was like wide open. She could have just poked her head in and be like, "Hey kids, look at this." But no.
yeah, like, "Don't spoil your father's fun."
Yeah. Like he's the child that needs to be entertained or and so Clark gets tickets to Siegfried and Roy. Someone knocks at the door and hands it to him, right?
You're taking the notes.
I forgot how it happened. I didn't write it down.
That's their first show, though, they see, Siegfried and Roy.
The first show, yeah, Clark says he has tickets to Siegfried and Roy. Yeah, so he says that, and then they get cuts to them walking in the casino again.
Yes.
And we get our first glimpse of Wallace Shawn, who is a blackjack dealer.
Yes. If, you don't know him by name,
He was in The Princess Bride, and he was very inconceivable.
yes. He also voices Rex from Toy Story. Also, fun fact, he learned for this movie how to deal blackjack from Andre the Giant's sister. She taught him how to deal blackjack.
Okay, because yeah, they have to do it a certain way in the casinos,
Yes.
and she taught him how. Okay,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And so we pass by Wallace Shawn, and we also get a glimpse of Wayne Newton,
Yep.
Mr. Las Vegas himself, right?
Yes.
I was gonna say Wayne Newton was Mr. Las Vegas,
I believe so.
and he's Wayne Newton.
You
He,
good?
yeah, sorry. Yes, we get our first glimpse of Wayne Newton, and he seems to be smiling over towards Ellen.
Yes. And this is pointed out. Like, "You're smiling at me."
Yeah, she thinks that he is smiling at her. And then the kids, it goes to the kids, and they are also walking through the casino, doing their kind of their own thing. And Rusty says, "Give me $5. I'm gonna gamble." To Audrey, because like he doesn't have his own money.
Yeah.
So maybe Audrey is older in this. If she's
Maybe?
yeah, maybe she's like 18, 19.
Maybe.
Because
But
they're not old enough to gamble,
right.
but
They still live at home.
yeah. So she might be 18. She might be a year older
Yeah. But,
because
I
she's
mean,
got
she just kinda sighs and hands him the money.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. And then so he gets ready to gamble, and immediately there is a security guy there.
Yes, security.
Security walks up and asks to see ID, and and Russ, the quick thinker, is like, "Oh, of course. Actually, I forgot it up in the room." Turns to Audrey, and goes, "Honey, wait here. I'll go grab it. I'll be right back." Kisses her on the cheek and bolts, which is hysterical.
It is.
And the best part is it never comes back to it. She's just like awkwardly standing there and kind of smiles, and then it cuts back to Clark, and he is. I didn't write down what table he was at.
Probably the blackjack table.
I think he is at the blackjack table,
He doesn't play
and
at any other tables really that we get to see much of. I mean, at one point, he's walking by and throws money at a roulette table, but I
yeah,
think that the one he spends the most time at is that blackjack table
yeah,
with
because I have it here right down, because
with
it said
Marty.
Wallace Shawn is the dealer,
Yeah, and this his name is Marty. He's the one that named after Marty the Moose from Wally
right? And you can see from his name tag, so he's playing right now. Cousin Eddie shows up, and he is moist.
World. Yes.
Like he is visibly got a layer of moisture on him,
Yeah.
and his hair is wet. I don't know if it's gelled or just wet, but he looks like he just walked out of a steam bath
or came out of a fountain.
or came out of a fountain. Yeah, he is moist, damp. He is dampened. I don't know.
Damp. Yes, he's damp. It's humid there.
He is not fully dry, and it's a little icky. So
Anyway, he's the last person Clark expected to see
right,
in Vegas.
yeah.
Oh, this is because this is the first time he's playing blackjack,
Yeah.
and he's there's a lady sitting next to him, and he's like, blackjack is statistically the only game where you have an advantage over the house. And
Well,
she's like, "Oh,
a smart player has
a
advantage
smart
over that.
player, yes." She's like, "Oh, are you a professional?" He says, "No, no, no. Are you?"
And this viewing of it is the first time that I got that joke. 'Cause
There's
she just kinda looks at him, gets up, and leaves.
yes,
And
there's a couple jokes this is the first time I caught.
yeah, and I was like, because I remember catching the joke in a different way, like, not understanding what it was, because she gets up and leaves. Like, she
Right.
looks offended and gets up and leaves. And I remember before just being like, "What?"
Yeah,
And
she's
then
just
this
being
time, I was like, "Oh," 'cause at first I thought, okay, maybe he was just being a smart aleck to
right.
her and just being rude.
Yeah,
Of like, "Oh, are you a professional blackjack player?" Was
right,
inferring. Yeah. And then
and not a professional swerver.
yeah, but professional tax consultant.
Yes, the I like that, taxes. We'll stick with taxes.
With with taxes, yeah. So, yeah, and then gotta figure out where we are, and then
He shows up.
Cousin A shows up, he's dampened. Clark's playing blackjack, and Wallace Shawn, who the dealer's name is Marty, you can see on his little name tag, becomes at this point he becomes Clark's mortal enemy,
Yes. Yes, he does. This man seems to have it out for Clark.
which is you are not allowed to berate and mock the gamblers at the casino if you are a dealer.
I mean, no, probably not.
You're supposed to be nice. They they want the people to come back.
Yeah.
So it cuts to the Siegfried and Roy show.
Yeah.
You had to think about that?
No, I was just trying to think if there was anything that Eddie said that that conversation had, but he just watches Clark lose some money. He asked Ellen later, "Is like, why'd you tell
Yeah.
Eddie we were gonna come
Well,
to coming to
let's
Vegas?"
not get ahead of ourselves. Oh, but he is yeah, so at the end of that he's like, "Oh my god, it's been this amount of time. I've already lost $300." And Cousin Eddie just drops straight back.
Well, yeah, yeah. We learned that he's got a that's what we learned when Eddie shows up, that he's got a piece of land that the VA gave him. He's got a bad plate in his head that every time he belches, he passes out and his leg goes twitchy. Uh,
Yeah. And then Clark reveals that he's already lost $300, and Cousin Eddie spits his beer and falls back.
yeah,
And then he'll
he's
go, I'm good, I'm okay. And he's
yes,
drinking Bush. I don't know if this movie was sponsored by Bush, but he's drinking Bush Tall Boys.
off to Siegfried and Roy.
Off to Siegfried and Roy. Not Roy, just Roy. So they're in the
This is
middle of the show, and what?
I said this is gonna be a long one.
It's going to be a fun one.
It is.
And Clark gets pulled up on stage.
Yes.
And
They're
so
like, where are you
he's
from? Chicago. Get up here.
get up here. Oh, great. So he gets up there and he's trying to be cool. He goes, "Oh, guys, I know what's going to be this time, wires or whatnot. I know the magic trick too." When he does like the
Yeah, yeah.
move his
He's like,
thumb.
oh, my finger's disappearing, or my
Yeah.
finger's coming apart. You can tell
You
it's my
thought,
thumb, right?
yeah. And they put him up in the cage. He goes, "Oh, we're gonna put it in here, a little glass panel box." And so I'm gonna go up with it. And then the curtain comes down. And there's a puff of smoke, and then he screams, which is
Yeah, yeah.
great.
You hear him. He's like, "What the what? Ah!"
And then the cover drops, and there's now a tiger in the glass case, and Clark is nowhere to be found. But yeah, in the notes, it's like the scream was the best part because he's clearly not in on the bit.
No, they didn't tell him anything. They didn't whisper something to him, like I know that that happens before you get up on stage, like, when this happens, just fall back or roll with what happens and shove, but this one, he was clearly just get in
Clearly,
the box and go.
clearly something was happening whether he knew about it or not. They didn't want to risk it getting wrecked.
Exactly. Oh, and then we
So
don't see Clark.
yeah, so they do three like kind of fade cuts to show a passage of time.
Yeah, it's the whole,
It's
what,
the whole show.
2-hour show?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, the whole 2 hour show, and they're
I don't know how long
Ellen's.
their shows were, but,
I'll assume 2 hours. That's a reasonable magic show.
is it? When was the last time you saw a Magda show?
Okay, fair. I would assume it's at least an hour.
Okay, we'll say at least an hour.
Because in America's Got Talent, one of the prizes is an hour-long show in Vegas, or it
Okay,
was,
we'll say that, at least an hour show.
which Clark is missing, and they're clearly wondering where he's at.
Well, Ellen's clearly wondering, Audrey and Rusty are just enamored with the the show.
Right. Yes, but then Audrey's the one that says, "I wonder where Dad is."
Yes, but she doesn't seem worried, she's just like, "Huh,
Yeah, interesting. He's not back
yeah."
yet.
Ellen's the one that keeps looking over his shoulder, looking at her watch.
Yeah, and then at the last bit of the show, when all the tigers come up through the turtle shell thing,
Yeah.
Clark is on one of them.
His 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 hair is all mussed up. He looks like he just got shoved through a tunnel or something. He has no idea what's going on. I don't know if they
Yeah,
they drugged him, stuck him in back, and woke him up just to go.
or they pushed him back somewhere, and there was supposed to be something else there, and he found his way there. And
Or that, yeah. I just
we don't get a lot of answers as to what happened.
nope. That's when Clark comes back, and everybody's all, "Yay, he's back! It's the dude from the first one."
Yeah, from the very beginning.
In if that's gonna happen to somebody on a show, you'd think maybe they're sitting backstage watching the show like, "Oh, this is entertaining." But no, it looks like he was shoved in the closet and said, "Okay, well, stay here until we need you again."
Yeah, he not once was he in on it. So the show ends, and it cuts to the next morning, and they're at breakfast, and Clark is upset, and so why would you tell Eddie that we're in Vegas?
Yeah,
And Alan's like, I want to see my, is it her sister?
cousin.
Cousin. Okay, so yeah, okay. Her cousin, Eddie's wife.
Yes. And this I noticed something during this scene that they don't focus on the kids at all, they're just kind of sitting there, but Audrey is taking her orange juice with her straw and dropping it into Rusty's milk.
I actually, that's the first time I noticed that too. Was she just gets a straw full of orange juice and drops it right in his milk.
I saw that, I'm like, "Oh, is she doing one of those worm things?" Because all I saw at first was her hold up the straw with the orange juice, and I watched her, and she's like, "Oh, nope, that's going in his milk."
Which is just mean. And I wonder if that she was just sitting there and she just did it and they happened to catch it.
Y yeah, is that something they got directed to do as the characters, or if I mean, they're just sitting there eating breakfast, doing things, and she's just messing around because she's a little bored because she doesn't have anything to say to her in this scene.
Yeah, she just, look like you're having breakfast. And she's like, okay, what would I do? Well, I might do this.
Regardless, it was hysterical.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's there. Like I said, this movie's filled with tons of comedic moments that it's one after another. So many subtle little things, background things, just great. But Ellen mentions that they were invited over to Eddie's property for lunch.
Yes.
And that's pretty much all this scene sets up is the fact that they are going to go to Cousin
Yeah.
Eddie's for lunch. So they rent a car, rent a van.
Probably, but this is what he's like, "I'll be right back." And this
Oh
is
yeah,
he goes to the roulette table, puts I don't know, was it 5 on black or 10?
15.
15 on black.
Yep.
He
He
comes
sneaks
up.
off to well, because Russ is like, "Gosh, I can't wait to gamble," and Clark's like, "I never want to hear those words out of your mouth again," and gives him some speech and goes, "I gotta go to the bathroom." Gets up, like runs over to the roulette table, 15 on black. All right, it rolls. And red's a winner. You know,
It's
and he
like, it's like,
runs
dang it,
back.
runs back. Let's go to Eddie's.
Yep. And so we have another, I guess, not really a montage.
It's just a sweeping shot of them driving through the desert.
Yeah. And then we are revisited by Christy Brinkley
Yes,
from the first movie.
yes, and the Christmas movie.
That's right, and the Christmas movie. Is
She's the
she in?
distraction that causes them to go under the car,
Right.
or
No, she's not.
no, that was the truck, wasn't it?
That was a truck.
I believe
I
she's
thought
in Christmas Vacation.
she is the when they're when Clark's shopping for a gift for Ellen, and she's the like
Oh, that's her, isn't it?
yeah, I believe so. Is it?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
They're gonna make me look it up.
I know she's in Vacation as Ferrari Girl,
Yes.
and she comes back in this one as Ferrari Girl, and they're doing the, oh, nice to see you again, flirty thingy. And then he notices the baby in the back seat
Yeah.
and
Oh, you
vows,
know what?
what?
I think she was the pool fantasy girl, right? From Christmas Vacation?
Oh, yeah. That changes into Cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
Hang on, I'm looking it up.
But yeah, so it turns out she has a kid. She's moved on with life,
Yeah, yeah, that's
and Clark is a happily married man anyway with his own family, so moot point. But she takes off, and her license plate now says "Mama."
yes.
And now I guess I'll wait for you to look up if she was in
No.
Chris.
No, not at all. Just the first one in the Vegas. I thought she was in one of the other ones.
Huh? Good.
Oh, good way to round it out.
Yeah, I can cut all that out now.
Yeah. Find a good stopping point.
Yeah,
Make it work.
making this harder on me.
Sorry.
So we end up at yeah. They're looking for. Did you get an address? They're trying to find Eddie's place,
Oh yeah.
and it's just desert. It not a bit of shade anywhere, and they pull up to this little RV sitting on this chunk of just sand and rocks,
Yep.
and that's Cousin Eddie's house. And they get to catching up and talking, and Clark asks if he wants help with the setting up the grill, the barbecue, and Cousin Eddie's like, "Oh, no thanks, don't have one," and takes two whole chicken thighs
Yes. Yeah.
and just chucks him down on a rock, and they start sizzling. Let's you know how hot
How
it is
hot?
there.
Yeah.
And Eddie comes out in just these little shorts that he's actually rolled up to be even shorter, and he's drinking a Bush still, and
it's his beer of choice, just like
he's still damp.
yeah.
And the lady folks are talking in the kitchen, and there clearly not a lot of room in the kitchenette, but Ellen's making small talk and playing nice and catching up with her cousin,
Yeah.
and she's trying to stay positive and says, "Well, it could be worse. You could be pregnant again." And I forget what her name is.
Kathy?
Sure, Kathy works for me. Starts crying, and Ellen's like, "Oh no." And she's like, "Well, I've been trying these new fertility drugs, or testing these new fertility drugs, and I think this one's gonna be a winner." Are you looking her up?
Catherine.
Catherine.
Yes.
Close enough.
I was close.
Yeah. And they go outside, and we meet some of Eddie's new kids, because that appears to be all he does is drink beer and have kids.
Yeah. This series is known for its continuity with the kids. So
It is, very much so. Cousin Vicky comes home. You see a
yes.
truck come up, and Cousin Vicky is also in the first Vacation, played by what's her name? I had it. I didn't write it down because I'm like, oh, I'll remember that. Jane Kasmerick, I want to say.
Maybe.
Let's see, Jane Kas. Nope, Jane Kasmerick is Lois on Malcolm in the Middle. So let's see. It's gonna be. I don't know why I didn't look this up. Jane Krakowski
Yes.
was the original from 30 Rock and Ally McBeal and all that. She was the original Cousin Vicky. So Cousin Vicky gets home, and Eddie's, oh, there's my pride and joy.
Yep. Her pictures are everywhere.
Yep, and she's a dancer.
Yep. So, fun fact: the taxi that they get to the that they're taking early on in the movie when they get off. When was it?
It comes later.
Well, yeah, early on too. There's a picture of her on a taxi cab when they're getting to their limo. Next to
Oh,
them, there's a taxi that's got a picture of Vicky on it.
okay. I didn't see the first one,
Yeah,
but so yeah,
I was
he's
sitting there watching. I'm like, oh, that's Vicky.
yeah, and so he's there's my pride and joy, whatnot. She's a dancer. Yeah, her pictures everywhere, billboards, taxi cabs, men's rooms,
Yeah,
which again, kind of a dirty joke, but also very subtle.
yeah,
And then he goes, "Sweetie, show him that move I taught you." And she does a little pole dance, and you're like, you know, all right. And then you see that, and like the mom's getting into it too. Eddie's smiling along, which a little weird. And
yeah,
then you remember that he said, "Show them that move I taught you."
yeah,
And so you can't help but slightly picture cousin Eddie was the one that showed her how to do that,
yeah.
which is slightly unsettling.
Mhm.
And then you get the line from Clark where he leans over to Rusty and says, "Don't have unnatural thoughts about your cousin, Russ." Again, very subtle.
Yes.
And then they cuts to them in the trailer, Vicky and Audrey in the trailer,
Yeah,
talking about how dry the chicken is.
because
And then, because I don't know why,
they are eating it.
they are eating the chicken that cousin Eddie cooked on the rock.
Yes.
And Vicky says, "Hey, if you're bored, you can have my beeper number, and we can hang out later." And she's, "Oh, cool, thanks, whatever." And
Yeah.
then it cuts back to them get the Griswolds getting ready to leave, and Russ is like, "Oh, sorry, Eddie. Russ has never had this kind of response to poultry," and he looks pretty sick.
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, "Oh, that's okay. He's just not used to home cooking." And then, does he put him in a headlock and pretends to punch him in the
Yeah.
stomach a couple times? Because that's what you need when you've had food poisoning from poultry.
Yeah.
And so they're getting ready to leave, and Clark's like, "Oh, Eddie, too bad you can't come with us."
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, "Oh, hold that thought. I would get the babysitter." At which point he walks over and grabs the bucket of snakes that they have and yells round up and dumps
Yep.
the bucket over and says, "All right, let's go. That'll keep them busy for hours." I mean, and realistically, where are they gonna go? There's
Wander off into the desert.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. I, I don't know.
Regardless, Eddie and Catherine go with them on their next adventure.
To the Hoover Dam.
Yep.
And it shows a nice shots of the Hoover Dam. And then the old guy comes up and tells Clark the dam tour is getting ready to start.
Yep.
And then we go with them on the tour of the dam, and they make a lot of puns, right? Those are puns, aren't they?
Yeah. It's like, are there any damn questions? No, about the dam.
Yeah, he said, "Welcome to the dam tour. Please feel free to take all the dam pictures you'd like. Now, are there any damn questions?" And Eddie goes, "Yeah, where can I get some damn bait?"
And
Which
it was this.
I've
You
heard
go ahead.
that those jokes that they make saying "damn" in front of everything,
Yeah.
they actually do that on the tour.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing.
Because it's funny.
It is.
But it was this scene where I was looking at because cousin Eddie's got his fishing pole there and he's standing next to Clark and I'm like, he's taller than Clark. So I looked him up and Randy Quaid is 6'5". He's an inch taller than Chevy Chase.
They're just very large men.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
random facts. Sorry, but
No,
when I was watching, I'm like, because I had specifically looked up Chevy Chase because he was tall in my mind in the plane. Like, yeah, he is tall, and like he's taller than him.
by an inch.
Yeah, not
That's a
much,
lot.
but still.
So they're on the tour, and the tour guide literally mentions that he's given facts about the dam, and he mentions that don't worry about the water leaking in the dam. It's supposed to do that as part of. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said it's normal. It's supposed to do that. Don't
Groundwater,
worry about it.
seeping through.
Yeah. And Clark notices that and goes, Audrey, come here. Give me your gum. And she's like, what, out of my mouth? And he's like, just give me a piece. Give me the pack. I don't care. Just give me some. So she hands him the whole pack of gum and catches up to the tour and he starts chewing it and sticking it over the water leaking through and one
Well,
starts
he pokes a rock and it falls off, so the spring, instead of dribbling out, just starts shooting out. It's like, "Oh, I made it worse."
yeah. And so then he decides he's gonna fix it with bubble gum.
Yeah,
And so he messes with that for a good while and then tries to catch up to the tour and finds himself lost.
yes.
And so we follow Clark running through the dam and he gets to a door and opens it and it apparently just opens into the face of the dam to where he opens the door and he's looking out at the abyss. And I'm going, no, sorry. There's no door halfway up the dam that leads into nothing.
There's no hallways halfway up the dam. That needs to be structurally sound to hold all that water back.
Right. It's not like a labyrinth of hallways all the way up and down the dam.
Right, right. No, I did look it up. There is to wreck the movie magic, there is no door that opens off to the dam like that.
Okay. I was
Officially,
I
there
when you said that, you're like when you were starting to talk, I was like, he's about to tell me there really is a door right there.
no, no, there is no door. When they filmed that door that he opens to a bathroom, but it's funnier to have it open onto the dam. So
Okay. The bathroom. So he's trying to find his way back, and then he opens the door, walks outside, and realizes he's at the very bottom.
yeah, he's worked his way down to all past all the turbines, all the electrical systems and everything. He's on one of the platforms at the bottom. And his genius idea to get back where people are is to climb the electrical tower.
This right here, only part of the movie that bugged me.
Y With everything else going on, I'm like, that is not a good decision. That is a yes, I agree. It made me laugh. It was funny, but it didn't it's like, why would he make this decision? There's other things he could have done.
Well, I mean, even the fact, even like he sees the ladder, he climbs the ladder. That doesn't bug me. It's like,
Oh, it's just
okay, he's gonna do. He
I
thinks
mean,
he
there's
sees.
more of it, yeah, but
Yeah, he thinks he sees how it's gonna get him to the top, and then and then he gets there and he starts like trying to jump from tower to tower, and then
he
the
decides he's
power
gonna
line.
he decides he's gonna shimmy across this power line?
Yes, that's where it got to me. It got like, okay, no, no,
What?
no.
It's like, why would he even grab that power line?
Yeah, you're talking the. I mean, how much amperage is going through that?
Yeah, and there's other ways to do a bit where he gets on a power line that just I'm just gonna climb up there and end up on it.
Yeah, I mean, and it might have even been funnier if he would have like gotten up to the very top of it, realized he had nowhere to go, and then he's tries to climb back down the ladder and like kick something, and the cage falls and locks, so he's like trapped up there
Yeah,
and has to get
or he
like
stumbles and falls and then grabs onto it.
yeah, or yeah, he falls down and he's on it and he has to like kind of army crawl across it.
Right, instead of just, "I'm gonna start crawling out onto this wire now."
Yeah, well, this is what I have to do. Like so yeah, that this part right here was just a little ridiculous, and the only part of the movie that kind of was just like, oh man, because then
And
it
then the
breaks.
yes, it snaps. It
It snaps
well, it disconnect it snaps from where it's connected to the po the the
the pole.
yes,
So now he's literally Tarzan swinging from a live live disconnected power line
yes, towards
and
the face of the dam.
towards the base of the dam. Which, if you saw the front of the dam, there was nothing facing that direction.
Yeah,
And then
and
he
then
slams face first into the dam.
Well, as he's swinging, he starts singing "America the Beautiful."
Right.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. Which did make me laugh.
That
It's
yes,
just
that
so
was
ridiculous and absurd.
that was great. I like that part.
Yeah,
'Cause yeah, so at last we had, like, him trying to climb thinking it's a good idea to climb the wire, and then when it jostles him and he slips and falls and, like, grabs onto it, that
yeah.
part bummed me a little too, but then when he starts swinging and he's singing "America the Beautiful," I'm right back on board. And then he slams into the face of the dam, and then the power line's just gone at that point.
Well, it swung back.
Okay. And he's, like, got he's hanging there.
He's got his fingers in these little cracks.
Yeah. And then when he first starts swinging, he yells, "Ellen!" And it shows him swing right behind, and she looks over, and she sees him, and so they all run over to watch, I guess, because no one
Yeah.
helps him.
Uh-uh.
He shimmies his way up, and nobody helps him even when he's at the top. He gets himself over that all by himself.
Because they just standing there smiling.
Yeah, what doesn't he like after the tours? Oh, let's see, because Eddie's walking with the tour guide at one point, and the tour guide tells Eddie that's how a dam works, and Eddie goes, "How?" And then the tour guide just looks at him, stops walking, and walks away. Yeah, so so it Clark's makes it back up, and so we're back at the hotel. We're in the pool. It's very crowded. There's a lot of people in swimsuits walking around, specifically women, and it shows Clark and Russ very obviously checking them all out,
Yes.
which leads into Clark deciding that now is the time to have the talk with his 17-year-old son. And Russ is like, "Dad, if this is what I think it is, I already know." And Clark's like, "Okay, good talk, son."
I learned about that when I was played by Johnny Galecki.
I don't think he said that.
Actually, the Anthony Michael Hall one would have been more appropriate.
It would have been. Yeah.
He's sharing it. Never mind. Wrong movie, but he's sharing the beer with him,
It's
takes a sip, hands it to him, hands it back, and it's empty.
well, because he's talking, and you see Anthony Michael Hall, like his eyes light up, he grabs it, and
So
you just
chugging the
watch him just guzzle the whole thing and belch.
sorry. Sorry. Distracting us with another movie.
No, it's relevant and it's hilarious. And so they're back in the room trying to decide what to do next. They're kind of throwing ideas out, and there's a knock at the door. And as Clark's walking to the door, I don't know if you caught it, but you can hear the TV say that the water level at the Hoover Dam dropped 4 feet from an unexpected flood in the basement.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then, like I said, there's jokes everywhere, even in the background. It's great. And that was the first time I actually caught that joke too. For how many times I've seen this movie, it was yeah. And then there's someone at the door, and they drop off 4 tickets to Wayne Newton,
Yes.
and then someone else comes and gives Ellen a dress to wear to Wayne Newton that night,
Mhm.
and we all think it's Clark, or she thinks it's Clark,
Yeah, it's not Clark.
not Clark, which we get to later. And so it cuts to them showing up at the Wayne Newton show. Ellen's wearing the dress, Clark's there, and the kids are there, and Clark's trying to show off
Yeah.
and tries to get a good seat and tips the concierge in with a handful of quarters.
Yes, "No, no, sir, the gratuity is not necessary," as he's trying to force these coins into the dude's hand, and the guy's clearly just trying to keep his hand as flat as possible, so they just roll off and fall on the ground.
It's just like the one does not want the quarters, does not want
Yeah,
a handful of quarters.
you hear the change hitting the floor.
And so yeah, so then it cuts and finding their seats, and Ellen's like, "Oh wow, front row," and Clark's like, "Well, I did tip the guy, honey." Clearly taking credit for it, even though like that does not decide where your seats are. And let's see. So Wayne Newton starts to perform. He's singing a song and just staring Ellen down, and starts walking up and getting closer. And Russ says, "Oh my gosh, Wayne Newton's hitting on mom." And then Audrey says, "Well, I guess we know who bought her the dress." And then Wayne Newton pulls Ellen up to sing with him. And the lady behind them leans forward to Clark and says, "You are so lucky. I've been to many shows and he's never done this." And I looked up that lady because
Yeah,
Rachel was convinced she was somebody important to either Wayne Newton or the Vacation franchise.
yeah.
That is her only film credit. She is literally like an extra that they threw a line to.
So that or while they're in Vegas, like the lady beh the lady behind them, "Can you say this line?" "Okay." And she became an extra.
She bec or she's the one, she was sitting there and she just did it, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Lady, we're filming a movie."
"No, no, it's funny, leave it in."
Uh, that happened in Dumb and Dumber,
Yeah.
but that that'll be for another time. Anywho, so Clark wants to go shoot. Yeah, the Wayne Newton thing's over. It cuts the back in the casino. Clark wants to go shoot craps, and he tells the kids to go have fun. And they're like, "Dude, we can't gamble. Still underage." And so he gives them each $20, and he leaves to the craps table. Audrey and Russ look at each other for a second, and then go bye and walk their separate ways. And it cuts back to Clark, and he's at the craps table, and he's on a roll. And then Eddie shows up, still dampened, and Clark immediately craps out.
This is when he's being escorted by the security, right? In flip-flops and a snorkel?
Yes.
'Cause he was swimming in the fountain?
He's like, no, 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 no. He wasn't. He comes up and he says, "Clark, you ever swim with the dolphins?"
Oh, that's right, he swim with the dolphins
Because there's dolphins out front of not the Bellagio.
within the fountain. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if it
It
was in the fountain, but there was like a dolphin tank around one of the casinos
Yeah, I remember that.
that it showed that we completely glossed over, and now we know the reference of him in, yeah, snorkel and flip-flops or flippers walking through the casino. Because he's Clark's ducking from it, from Eddie,
Yeah,
and
'cause he
then
hears the voice and he ducks down.
ducks down, like, right up against this lady,
Yeah.
and the security comes up and goes, "Excuse me, sir, do you know this person?" And Clark stands up and goes, "No, I don't," and introduces himself to the lady he was just hiding behind. And then Eddie says, "You ever go swimming with the dolphins, Clark?" And then Clark craps out,
Yep.
and he goes, Eddie, has anyone ever told you that you're bad luck?" And Eddie gets real serious. He goes, "Those were my mother's dying words." Of course, when you're covered in third-degree burns and what else? You'll say all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
Clark's out of money, so he goes up to the desk and asks if he can cash a check. And the lady says only if you are staying at the hotel or at the casino, which he is. So he writes a check for an unknown amount of money.
Yeah.
All we know from there is he's having dialogue with cousin Eddie, and this lady behind the counter she's just counting out hundreds, and he's scooping them up.
Yeah. I'm guessing about 5,000.
Something like that, I would say. Then we cut to Rusty, and he's walking down the strip, and there's a guy with a sign around his neck advertising all of the what do you call them? Attractions that he provides, services he provides.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as Rusty's walking by, he goes, "Fake IDs, $10, kid." So Russ gives him $10. He gets a fake ID, walks in the casino, and we cut back to Clark at the blackjack table with a different dealer other than Marty, and he is on a winning streak. This lady apparently could not win a game of blackjack to save her life, and she is just beyond thrilled by it.
So, during
Yes,
this scene, behind this dealer, there's a pit boss. And
I
the pit
missed.
boss the pit boss is watching the game, picks up the phone, makes a call, and as soon as she's done, they dealer switch.
Okay, I missed that whole. See what this movie's so great because there's so much going on and there's so much to catch.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
watching it
they're
and
watching the cameras and she's just losing, and just
yeah,
having a grand old time.
or they're like, "He's back, get Marty out of here."
I don't think so because of how much he's been winning. Because he says, "You're my good luck charm." So clearly he has been winning for a while.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that she's just giving away the farm, and they're like, "We got to get her out of here. She's
Marty
losing."
doesn't let anybody win, get him out of here.
Yeah. And then so yeah, it switches, and I like that they do they paid attention to how dealers behave in casinos.
Yeah,
So when she's leaving, she sticks her hands out and turns them up and over because
yeah,
that's what all dealers have to do when they leave the table to show that they're not taking anything with them.
yeah.
And then Marty shows up. And I wrote Clark's mortal enemy Marty shows up. And then it cuts to Audrey with cousin Vicky and her friends and three Beatles lookalikes. They're cruising in a car right now, headed somewhere. And then we go back to Rusty, who is trying to get a drink with his fake ID, and he hands the ID to the bartender. The bartender looks at it, looks at him, and says, "I think we have a problem, sir," and turns it over to reveal that the picture is a black man, which Rusty is not. And so he gets thrown out. They give him the fake ID back, which I don't think they really would have done. But
Yeah, probably
he
not.
gets thrown out of the casino, and goes. The guy is still out there, and he's like, "Hey man, you sold me a bogus ID." And the guy's like, "They kicked you out of there?" And he goes, "Yeah," and hands him the ID, and he's like, "Whoops," and puts the ID in his back in his pocket, takes his sign off, flips it over, says, "Stick your head through the hole, kid. Your name is Nick Papagiorgio. You're from Yuma, Arizona, and you're in Las Vegas. Smile," and shoots his picture. And that flash takes us back to Audrey hanging out with the not Beatles and Vicky on the top of some building
Yeah.
dancing.
Mhm.
Well, Vicky's dancing, Vicky's friends are dancing. Audrey's standing there with the not Beatles talking
Having not
because
fun.
having not fun. And it's just, "So you've been together longer than the real Beatles." Like, yeah,
I There's only 3.
I know. And I don't know why. I didn't think
Not
to ask.
Yoko?
That was good. There's only three because of not Yoko. I had to edit out so much laughter.
Oh, it's fun, it's fine.
No, it's great. I love it. This is gonna be so much. This is great. I love when episodes are fun like this. Well, actually, they all have been. So, so Vicky basically gives Audrey some advice on that she needs to loosen up and have fun. Audrey agrees, and so she climbs a neon sign and starts dancing. And one of Vicky's friends goes, "Oh, she's gonna break a lot of hearts." And Vicky looks up and goes, "She's gonna break something." Which don't fall, I guess, is the point there.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Russ walking down the strip, and he sees a slot machine, and he puts money in and pulls it, and it hits three cars, and he wins the car.
Yep.
And the guy comes up and says, "Congratulations, you've won the car. Can I see some ID?"
ID.
And he's like, "Sure." Hands him the ID, and the guy goes, "Okay, where would you like the car set, Mister Papa Giorgio?"
Yep, Nicholas Papagiorgio.
And then he just kind of smiles, and it cuts back to Clark just getting beat at the table mercilessly
Yeah,
when Eddie's there too,
yeah.
just watching the whole thing.
This is when he does 3 hands at once.
Yeah, he's just trying
Yeah.
anything to win. And then he decides he's gonna leave the table, so he turns around and walks away. And Eddie's like, "Why don't you go spend some time with Ellen?" And and Clark's like, "Well, she's asleep. It's late. She's asleep in the room." And Eddie's like, "Well, she must be a heck of a sleepwalker." And his points to her, and she's sitting down talking to Wayne Newton.
Yeah.
And they're chatting, and Clark walks over there, and it's becoming more and more clear that Wayne Newton has the hots for Clark's wife.
to Clark. We picked it up on it 6 scenes ago.
Yes, yes. Well, and he's not being subtle about it. Like he's being very obvious because he's Wayne Newton. And then Ellen gets up to leave, and Wayne invites Clark to sit down and starts giving him advice to hang on to his wife.
Yeah.
Don't let her out of your sight. And then Eddie shows up, gushing because he's a huge Wayne Newton fan. And Clark's like, "Oh well, Eddie, why don't you take my seat?"
And he's got that big drink.
Yes, the huge drink.
Yeah.
And he's mostly finished.
He
And
sits
then
down just starstruck, he's like, "Oh, man."
yeah, he sits down Star Trek, and then he like shuffles his chair over to get real close. And he doesn't say anything to him. He just, I mean,
Just
after he
looks
gushes that he's a huge fan, he just sits there and stares. And Wayne like kind of awkwardly is looking around, like, "How do I get out of here?" And then he reaches up and he pats his hair. Which, yeah, oh geez, oh that's funny. So then we cut back to Russ, and he steps up to the crap table, and he's very obviously it's his first time gambling. But
Yes.
some colorful folk, some what do you? I don't want to say mafia men, but that's clearly what they are.
Okay.
Take a shine to him as soon as he steps to the table.
Some
Some high rollers take a notice.
some connected high rollers.
Some connected high rollers, yes. Say the kid looks lucky. Let me bet on him. And uh, Russ starts shooting craps, and he is hot. He's making a lot of money. And then we go back to oh no, so he's at the table, he's rolling well. Everyone at the table is excited. Security comes over, asks to see the ID. The high roller's like, "Hey, come on, leave the kid alone, let him shoot." They always do this. Someone's hot and they gotta hassle him. And so
Yeah.
security's asked to see his ID. He's looking at it and he's questioning him on it, and he's answering them all. Kind of smart alecky.
Yeah,
Like
he is. He's like, "Okay,
it's
play it up."
yeah, I'm from Yuma, Arizona, where I am in the software industry. And the guy's like, "Oh, no corrective lenses this evening?" And he smiles real big, like real guiltily, real
Yeah.
big. And is like, "No, I do not require them, thank you." And then he gets his ID back and the guy turns and walks away and he says, "But apparently you do." And puts his ID away. First time I caught that joke. And then he starts rolling again, and we cut back to the room, and Clark is watching how to play baccarat.
Yes. He is
He's
he is he's
giving up on
desperate.
blackjack. Meanwhile, Ellen is trying to take advantage of the fact that they are alone in a hotel room, and she wants to get her taxes done. And Clark is not having it, and turning her down. And one of the points of them going to Vegas, which we glossed over earlier, was he wanted to renew their wedding vow.
Yes, yes.
And so while she's trying to get him to help her with their taxes, he says,
Yep.
"Honey, do you really think we should be doing this before we're married?" Which, quite funny.
Yes.
And then she turns the lights out and strikes out, and they do not get their taxes done. So it goes back to Russ down at the craps table, and his streak ends.
Yes.
And the high roller, the table, I guess that's how it works, is the table disperses after that because the table's no longer hot, so everyone goes their own way.
That I mean, according to movies and shows, yeah, that kinda happens
Yeah.
once I don't know if that's really how it happens, but
I don't spend that much time at the casinos,
nope.
but so yeah, Russ's streak is over. The guys from earlier walk over and they're like, "Hey kid, you made me a lot of money tonight. You like getting massaged?" And he's like, by who?"
It's like, "By me, who do you think?"
And then he said, "Meet me at the spot, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll hook you up."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then after his new friends leave, the hotel comes up and says that they've been really impressed by his playing, and they would like to comp him a room, which
Yes.
is actually a thing that casinos do.
Yes, that happens to high rollers or people doing really well from time to time. Because if you get the room for free, you're gonna stay there and maybe spend more money and possibly lose all your money.
That's right. They want you to stay longer and hopefully give it all back.
Exactly.
It's worth way more than the price of a room.
Yes,
and so they take him
especially for the
upstairs.
amount of money you get. If the amount of money he's winning,
Yeah, they get that back.
yeah,
Yeah, it's and they give him a room that's not booked
yeah,
anyway.
definitely. Yeah,
So they're not making money on that room anyway. So anything that they make back, it's profit.
yeah,
So very good tactic. And so we get to see the room that he's won, and it is a penthouse. It looks like a penthouse suite.
yes. Is definitely a penthouse suite. It's got the little living area in there. It's got a balcony with a pool on it. It's got a huge bedroom,
Yeah, it is. He's sitting pretty.
or
And
not maybe
then
not pool, like a spa or hot tub or something.
it's a hot tub.
Yeah,
And so then we cut to the next morning, and they're back at the breakfast area, and Clark is reading a book on how to count cards.
yeah.
And then the kids briefly show up.
Looking all hungover.
Yeah, they're both looking pretty hungover. And then not much really happens in this scene. And I kind of just didn't pay attention to it. So I don't have the notes.
It's it,
The
it
kids
the,
leave.
this scene is Clark kind of trying to connect with them again. They're like, "No, we got our own things to do," and they leave.
Yeah, it was just kind of everyone shows up and then they just kind of like leave again. And then it shows he's at the ATM and it's just dumping hundreds into his hand.
Yes,
And I wrote like Clark's bleeding the savings account dry for his showdown with Marty.
yes,
And then it cuts from there to Russ getting a massage with his new friends.
and the one guy that was talking to him, I think his name was Jelly, but he's got the cigar and he's on the massage table. He's back like a foot, so his face isn't over the face hole thing. It's on the actual massage table.
Right?
It's just on a he needs to be up there. It bothered me.
But then he can't smoke his cigar because there's not anywhere for him to lean on his elbows.
Yeah, I suppose, but
But
still.
he's giving the kid advice. He goes, "You're too tense. You know, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to learn to relax."
Yeah,
And we're like, the 17-year-old kid. Like,
of course he's nervous. He's afraid he's gonna get caught.
yeah, using a fake ID. He's won a car. Achieved high roller status. Some possible mafia connections are now befriending him, and they just signed him up for the penthouse suite. Like
Yes.
this is the house of cards. If this comes down, he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then we cut over to Audrey. She's with Vicky, and she's getting a new dress,
Mhm.
and talking about her coming to Vegas to be a dancer, and she's like, no,
She's going to school.
she's going to school. They said, well, you definitely could, which
Yeah.
good for her, I guess. I mean, I don't know. The point is, they think she's there to be a dancer, and she's not there to be a dancer.
You lose your spot.
I can't read my writing. It's all it says is Clark doesn't lose one hand, many getting mad.
Okay, so I know this scene.
So
It's
that's
is that where we cut to next? Clark
yeah.
getting the push at Marty's table where they both get 20 so he doesn't lose.
Yes.
Marty's
Yes.
like, "All right, Griswold."
Yeah. It's like, look, that's the worst thing. Clark's been losing for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then he pushes one time and like Marty's got a vendetta against him now.
Yeah, Clark's so happy. He's like, "I didn't lose. He didn't win, but he didn't lose."
Yeah, he got his money back one hand.
Yeah. And Marty's like, that does it, Griswold. You're toast."
And then we cut to Ellen showing up at Wayne Newton's house.
Yes.
And then we kind of, she knocks on the door. She goes, "Where's the family?" And she's like, "Nope, it's just me." And then we kind of go into a montage again,
Yeah.
I guess. I guess you'd call it a montage.
I mean, it's a montage of everybody's day a little bit.
Yeah, so it goes back to Clark losing, then cuts to Ellen. She's riding horses with Wayne Newton. That was just a weird sentence.
But yeah, she's riding horses with Wayne Newton.
Yeah. And then it's Audrey's at the pool with Vicky.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Russ in his new suit
Yes.
walking through the casino, and he wins another car.
Yeah. And
And then
I was
what?
gonna say this is also during the montage we get Rusty walking behind Clark at one point with his friends.
Yes, yeah. Well, actually, that's right now.
Oh, okay. So
So we
yeah,
cut to Clark, who's losing at the table, and then you see Russ pass by behind him.
yeah, and he hears Russ talking. He starts looking around briefly.
Yeah, and he's still losing. And then it goes back to lunch with Ellen and Wayne Newton, and he's going for it. This guy is just going for it. He's as the kids today would now say he's shooting his shot.
I mean, she showed up at his place without her family.
Yeah, and then he what's it called? A box. He gives her a box. Looks like a nice jewelry box, and she opens it up, and he goes, "It's a lock of my hair." And she decides she's gonna go now. And he invites her back over to his house for pasta
Yeah,
as
yeah.
she's running
It's like,
out.
well, this was nice. Here's a lock of my hair. I gotta go.
Right.
That got weird.
It did. It got really weird real fast.
Yeah, but yeah, she
So
leaves.
she leaves. And then it goes back to Clark, who is just broke beyond broke. And first he sees Russ, and then Ellen shows up, and then Audrey shortly after. They kind of all by chance regroup, and then he gets them all together and is like, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, yeah, because Audrey shows up with a couple friends, new friends or entertainers or whatnot.
Yeah, and Ellen's got her new
Wayne Newton garb on.
wait, yeah, her Waniac
Oh,
shirt and hat.
yeah. And Russ is there in his new suit. And he's like, all right, family meeting, come with me. Not you. And he takes the family and he starts having a conversation with them about, oh, we're here as a family. We're gonna have a good night together as a family. And they're all just kind of like, what? What are you talking about? You've been bailing on us the whole trip, and now you suddenly want to be together. Yeah, right. I got stuff to
Yep.
do. And they all just kind of bail. And he turns to Ellen and goes, "Hey, honey, let's get remarried." And she's like, "Newsflash, dude, I haven't said yes yet." Says, "You're not the same man that I married, so when you find him, you let me know." And she leaves.
Yeah, she's like, "Come on, kids," and they march off.
Yeah. And then he does the old cliche joke of turning all of his pockets inside out to
He's like, "What?"
symbolize that he is broke.
Yeah, he's like, "What did I do?"
He has lost everything and his family.
Yep.
And so we cut there at a buffet. Eddie and Clark are at a buffet. And Clark says, "Hey, Eddie, thanks for buying me dinner." And Eddie says, "Well, this is the best buffet $1.49 can buy."
He's got a single plate that he's holding up to like six of the kids,
Yeah, right. And then,
teasing them with it a little bit, and then drops it on like, "Go ahead, kids."
yeah, and then Eddie grabs a plate and Clark grabs a plate. And Eddie looks over at Clark and goes, "It's all you can eat, Clark. You only need the one plate." Which I didn't get fully as a kid. And then this last time, I'm like, oh, they're going to share the plate.
Yeah,
So he gives Eddie gives Clark the plate, the
yeah,
communal plate, so to speak. And then Eddie, from what appears to be nowhere, pulls out a giant bag and starts dumping the biscuits in it or the rolls in it.
yeah, yeah. He's loaded up
Because
on.
they want you to take the rolls.
Yeah,
There's my Boy Meets World quote. And I just wrote in my note, they're going down and it's showing the food, and I'm like, none of this food looks good.
you
It
didn't like
all
the you didn't like the yellow chicken or the blue beef?
I have that a little further down.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, mac and cheese, let's get some of that. And I'm like, pass. And some of the spaghetti, pass. And they get up to the blue and the yellow. Not yellow, it's yellow.
Yeah.
And Clark says, that doesn't look like chicken. And the chef's like, oh, you're right. And he pulls the sign out of the blue and the sign out of the yellow and switches them. So the blue is beef. And I have in parentheses, why? Why is the beef blue? And that's a bright blue.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
kind
like
of want to try it, but
it's like your wall.
yeah, it is like my wall. It's about that color of blue. And the chicken is the yellow. Clark goes to sit down because him and Eddie have been talking this whole time. And Clark goes to sit down, and Eddie's up there still, and he's kind of humming and hawing back and forth. And goes, "Let me get some of the yellow," and sticks his plate out. And he goes, "And don't be cheap on me."
Yeah, the guy just kinda rolls his eyes.
And then, oh, it's so gross because then it cuts and it's a close up of some of the ruddiest bread pudding I've ever seen with a spoon in it, and it's Eddie slurping it up, and you're just like, man, it is. It's just it is not appetizing at all. So yeah, Clark's definitely feeling sorry for himself, and he's like, "What do you see when you look at me, Eddie?" And Eddie very seriously stares at Clark for a while and realizes he's getting nowhere with that.
I'll tell you what you see.
And yeah, Ken tells him what he sees and just kind of beats himself up. And then while he's talking, he goes, "Eddie, you got a little on your face." And he's got probably an inch long spaghetti noodle dangling off his chin, and gets
Yeah.
his napkin and wipes. Did I get it? No, he didn't. But Clark's like, "Yeah, Eddie, you got it."
He just
Just
nods and
sure.
keeps shoveling his face.
And just yeah, he's just shoveling food in. He's talking to Eddie about how much he lost, and the total amounts to
$600.
$22,600, and Eddie starts making a scene,
Yeah, he's like, "Whoa, whoa, no."
and then he's like, "Well, Clark, you've always helped me out, and I got a little bit stashed, and we can get it. The only problem is we have to find out where I buried it." And so it cuts to them on Eddie's property, and they're digging, and it's 20 bucks here, $6 there. And Clark digs up one and goes, "Oh, there's got to be over $100 in here." And he's like, "Oh, U-ban. That stuff's good on anything, ice cream and whatnot. Or sometimes you can just take a pinch and eat it straight out of the can for a quick pick me up." And he's like, and that's when he's like, "Oh, there's like over $100 in here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's from when I sold one of my kidneys. We didn't need the money at the time, but I figured with medicine the way it is, I better sell it while somebody still wants it." Which, I mean, it's hard to argue that logic.
Yeah.
And he's a real planner and a thinker.
Yeah, he is.
Then it cuts to yeah, they're finding money, and they give it all to Clark. And Clark asks, "So where's the nearest casino?" And then it cuts to Ellen ordering room service. And then she looks over at the dress that Wayne Newton gave her and says, "Never mind, I'm going out." And then it cuts back to Clark and Eddie at a little bit of a different casino,
Yes.
As Eddie explains. And some of the games and Clark seems excited. Also, he's like, "Hey, they don't have any of these games at the Mirage," and
No, they do not.
they don't have these kind of games at any legitimate casino, especially the first one. Pick a number.
That one's great.
That's- so the first three we see is pick a number, coin toss, and then war. And it Clark is all about war. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
war! I used to play this with Russ all the time.
I'm great at this game.
Great." So he steps up to the war table and loses, and then he loses again, and then they tie, and then he loses again. And Eddie's like, "Clark, maybe you want to spread it out to some of the other tables too."
Yeah, don't lose it all at once.
Yeah, don't lose it all here. So that goes quick. And so it's a little bit of a montage again.
Yeah,
And I just kind of wrote it down, and we're going to do it kind of rapid fire. Clark loses at
okay.
war. Then they go to rock, paper, scissors, where he loses. Then he loses coin toss, which I did not like the way the coin toss worked, because he flips the coin, he catches it. He doesn't just uncover it, he looks at it and says, "Sorry." And then we go to guess which hand, where he loses. And he grabs the guy's hand and starts like trying to pry open his fingers, accusing
Yeah.
him of cheating. And
Like, he
Eddie's
switched
kind
it, I saw him.
yeah, and Eddie's like, stop it, Clark, you can't do this." And then we end with pick a number, and they're staring each other down, and Clark's like 4, and the guy's like 7. He goes, and apparently that's when he has his moment of clarity, and he's
Yes.
like, it's like, "What am I doing, Eddie? I need to go someplace where a man can be alone." And Eddie's like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that here, Clark." They're pretty dirty, and they're always backed up.
No, no, I need to think.
It's like, "No, I need to think. I need to be alone." He goes, "Oh, okay, okay. You want me to come with you?" Sure.
Which,
Uh,
looking at that, you're like, "Okay, they're best friends."
Pretty
It's
much,
weird,
yeah.
it's awkward, but yeah, they're they're best friends.
Yeah. So Clark and Eddie are walking down the strip, and he realizes that where he's gone wrong. He's been focused too much on the money, and the point of the family vacation is to spend time with the family. And so that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna get his family back. And so he hijacks he he runs past a driver and gets onto a tour bus
Yes.
for like a tour Vegas tour and says police business.
Yes, he just holds up his hand like he's holding something, like he's holding a badge.
And and then they get on there and he's like, uh-oh, and it's filled with elderly people. And then we cut back to Ellen eating a just a gigantic bowl of pasta.
Yes.
It was fettuccine alfredo, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. She
Yeah,
she and she's getting just the biggest balls of spaghetti on her,
yeah,
or at least fettuccine noodles on her.
yeah, she's shoveling it in, and I think to deter Wayne from making a move.
Yeah, yeah, she's there, she's eating, she's like, "This was a mistake, but I
Yeah,
can't leave."
right. And meanwhile, like he's still trying. And then it cuts back to Clark and Eddie, and they're driving, they're speeding down the strip, and Eddie's on the intercom, and he's like, "Over here you got the Mirage, over here you got this, over here you got that," just rapid fire.
Next stop,
Up,
Wayne Newton's house.
yeah, next stop Wayne Newton's house. So they crash into Wayne Newton's house through a wall,
Yeah, right through the wall, the window, and just
and he gets out, and he's spilling his guts to
he
Ellen.
gets out of a door that I don't think was in the original car.
I don't think so. It might have been possibly. Maybe he climbed out a window. I don't know. But
No,
he
because it had a driver's side door, and I don't think the bus had
oh yeah, they
doors
do.
there. There was this okay.
Yeah, yeah, they have emergency exits on that side. But yeah, so he's spilling his guts to Ellen, and I didn't write down all the times that they snubbed Audrey in the whole movie, but he's forgotten about Audrey on multiple occasions during the
Yeah.
movie, and I'm just like, why? What do they have against Audrey?
Don't
'Cause
know.
he's talking about the important, because he's always talking about the importance of Ellen and Russ, and it's like, and she's had to remind him that Audrey exists multiple times.
Yeah, and Audrey.
Yeah, but he spills his guts and reveals to her that the important thing is the family, and she's excited that the old Clark is back, and Wade Newton's like, "Are you kidding me?" And so Clark and Ellen leave to go get their kids back.
Leaving the people on the tour bus and Eddie with Wayne Newton.
And leaving the scene of an accident.
Yeah, because they take the vehicle.
Yes, yeah, there many crimes committed, but hilarious. And
Yes.
so they're in the casino, and they're showing Russ's picture around. Have you seen this kid? And the guy's like, "Oh, that's the guy who was suspicious of him, who actually checked his ID when he was at the
Right.
craps table." They show him, and he's like, "Yes, that's Nick Papagiorgio." And he's like, "No, that's my son." And so he's like, "Ah, confirmation that I was right." So he makes a call while they run to Russ's room, and they open it up, and they see there's a party going on,
Yeah.
and he's in the hot tub with a couple girls smoking a cigar, and he's busted. They catch him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he like sheepishly hands the cigar to the girl sitting next to him, like,
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's not
and then Clark walks over and pulls him out of the hot tub by his hair. Like, so they get him dressed, and he kind of ducks behind as security comes up and asks Clark, "I'm looking for a kid named Papa Giorgio. He's underage, and we need to talk to him." And he's like, "Oh, I'm glad. He stole my wallet. He's back there." So security runs off, and they go the other way, and now they're off to find Audrey. And they go to I was like, "What's the name of the club?" I remember the name of the club. I'm not saying the name of the club.
Yeah, you don't want to say it.
I don't want to say it, but
That's
Rachel actually pointed it out. She's like, "Did you catch the name of the club?" And I'm like, "No, actually, I didn't." So she told me, and I'm like, "Oh, cute."
We're not saying that on the show.
But I'm not saying it on a show, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so Vicky's dancing, and
Okay.
she is not a good dancer.
No.
She's just kind of like she's hanging onto the pole, leaning back, and she's like pumping her fist in the air.
Well, maybe she's just getting started.
Hopefully, she's just getting started. And then she points Audrey out to them, and Audrey's up dancing in a cage, and Clark runs up there, opens up the cage, kind of throws her over his shoulders, and takes her out of there.
and and it cuts to a sappy family reunion. Yeah,
That's what I'm gonna say. We got a nice little family moment out in front, out on the strip in front of the hotel. Clark admits that he lost about $23,000, and everyone's just shocked and mad. And Ellen's like, "All right, how broke are you?" And he's like, "I'm broke, broke. I took the savings account, the plane tickets, like everything, credit cards, all of it." She's like, "Well, how much money do you have now?" And he's like, "I'm broke, broke." And she's like, "Rusty," and he goes, I spent it all. Having an entourage is a lot of money."
yeah.
And she looks like Audrey, and Audrey's like, "No pockets." And it's like, "Oh, that's why no one likes you." You say dumb thing.
Poor Audrey.
I know. She's actually like the I don't know. Anyway, and then Ellen's like, and then Ellen's like, "All right," and she hikes up her dress and pulls out $2, and she's like, "I got $2. Go win my money back." And so
They
they
go to.
go to
I was gonna say
they
they
go
go
to
to.
okay.
I was gonna
They
say they
they
go to
go to play
play.
Keno.
They go to play one of our favorite games as kids.
We didn't play Keno as kids.
We helped pick numbers with our parents and grandparents when they were playing Keno at at Reno when we were down there because we'd all be eating. They'd be picking numbers like, "What numbers you want?"
Okay, fair. Yeah, I guess it's the only gambling we could really be a part of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they go to play Keno, and they're sitting next to the old man who was the gym teacher in Greece.
Yes, the great Sid Caesar.
Yes, I did not recognize that as soon as he showed up. Rachel was like, "It's a gym teacher from Greece." I've seen Greece like once. And so the old guy, clearly he's lonely and he's kind of spilling his guts
Yeah.
and telling Clark how wonderful his family is and how all he'd trade all the money and everything for just to have a family. And if he did have a family, he'd want it to be like Clark's family.
Yeah.
And so Clark says, "Well, tonight consider yourself part of our family."
And he's like, "Oh, I might take you up on that."
Yes, he does. And so they're picking numbers, and Keno begins. And the first number that comes up hits.
Yes.
And that's the only one that hits for them.
Yeah. It does not go well for the
It
Griswolds.
does not know. And it's to like a slow motion, and you see all these numbers pop up and them looking more and more defeated. And so they're sitting there basically just down and out, like, what do we do now? And the old man next to them is like, I won. I won the money. And does that a lot and then
Money.
comedically dies.
My money. One, two. They're all there. My money. I won the
Yes.
money.
I won the money. I won. They said I wouldn't win, but I won. Finally, after all these years of sitting here playing, I've been waiting for this moment and I've done it. And then he comedically dies.
Yes.
And Ellen says, go get someone. So they send Russ off. And then he comes back to life and says, I won the money. I won the money. And then and then comedically starts to die again, pulls Clark in and whispers to him, and
A
then
lot of whispering.
a lot of whispering and seems to be giving instructions. And then he seriously dies. And then Ellen's like, well, what did he say? And Clark goes, I think he said to take the ticket. And Ellen's like, are you sure? He said that? And Clark's like, well, I don't know. And then looks back at the guy who comes back to life one more time to wink at him and then die again.
Yes.
At which point the paramedics arrive, check his pulse, and say, he's gone. There was nothing you could have done. And I'm going, how could you possibly have known that? You literally, all you did was check his pulse. No, no CPR, no nothing, nothing. He literally showed up, dude is dead, and you're like, he's gone. There's nothing you could have done. Like, really,
Yeah.
really phoning it in as an EMT.
A little bit.
And Clark's like, but we didn't even know or I think it was Clark or Alan.
Yeah.
That we didn't even know his name. And one of the other paramedics is like, oh, that's Mr. Ellis. Loneliest guy I ever saw. He would have given anything just to sit next to someone and have someone say a few nice words, which is what he got.
Yep.
And so they're all standing there just kind of wondering what to do. The big vacuum's coming along, and Clark steps on the ticket and pulls it out of the way, and they take it. And as they're walking back to the hotel, they stop by a wedding chapel, and Clark proposes again, and we cut to them inside the wedding chapel renewing their vows. Eddie and his wife are blubbering hysterically, and the minister is none other than Larry Hankin, who you might know as Mr. Heckles on
Yes.
Friends,
Yep.
or one of the police officers
In Home Alone.
in Home Alone.
Hyper on 2.
Hyper on 2, yes. Or Doobie in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
I think he was also in Seinfeld.
Yeah, he's been around. He's a good character actor. He shows up every now and then. You're like, "Hey, it's Mr. Heckles."
Yeah, most popular Mr. Heckles,
Yeah.
at least for me.
Yeah, probably most well known too.
A lot of people, yeah.
But this Kath, like, "I don't care if you ruin my life. I love you."
Yeah,
She's crying into Eddie's chest.
yeah.
One of the best lines.
I don't think she says if. I think it's very,
"Yeah, I don't
very,
care that you ruined my life.
yeah.
I love you."
Yeah, so they're outside of the chapel and they're throwing rice, and the Eddie's son chucks it as hard as he can right in Clark's face. Which I can't believe we glossed over the kid with all the piercings, but I did.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But I think he and Vicky are supposed to be the oldest two from Christmas Vacation. Eddie's two kids from Christmas Vacation. I
the
think
ones
that's
that
supposed
weren't
to
there or the ones that were there?
the ones the older two kids, because they're the two older kids, and then they had
Right.
the gaggle of younger ones.
Yeah.
And so I think the older two were supposed to be the same kids that were in Christmas Vacation. Anyway, so they're all standing out in front of the casino. You see Clark give Eddie money,
Yeah.
not Eddie money, but pays Eddie back.
Yes. And with then some, it looks like. He
Yeah,
estimated about 5,000, I think.
yeah. Well, because you hear Eddie a little bit later say, "There's $5,000 here. He gave me
Yeah.
$5,000. That's 5,000." But then Russ interrupts Clark's speech and says, "All four of those cars, they're mine." He goes, "What do you mean they're yours?" He goes, "I want them. I put $1 in. I want a car. I put $1 in. I want a car. I put $1 in. I want a car. I put $1 in. I want a car." And after the fourth time, that's when Clark says, "I think I get it."
I think I get it, Russ.
Yeah. At this point, he's like, "All right, you're in this one. You're in that one. I'll take the big black thing, and let's hit the road."
Yeah, because they don't have plane tickets anymore. They gotta drive home.
Yep. So they all hop in the cars and they have a nice synchronized drive down the road and down the freeway out of town. And it says Chicago, 1,880 miles. And we roll credits.
This one's gonna be our longest one.
No, Watergate's super long.
Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Watergate is with Nixon.
We did.
Waterworld is with Costner.
That was close. Okay, so do you want to spill your thoughts first on this movie?
Sure. I still like this movie. As we said at the beginning, this is the best of the vacation movies. It's hysterical. Most of the jokes land. I can't think of anything where I was just sitting there staring at like, not that great, except for the couple of the bits at the dam. But other than that, this is pretty good. And Christmas is a very close second. Depending on the day, I'll probably go back and forth on which one of my is the better movie between the two. But I like Russ and Audrey in this movie more than I like Russ and Audrey in the other movies. This is my favorite Russ and Audrey.
Me too.
But and Eddie's at point. I mean, they gave him more things to do in this one. It was a good continuation of the series.
It was. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. I've always kind of thought this is the best of the Vacation series. I've seen them all, not counting the 2015 remake. That's stupid. But
Not remake, continuation because the
conti-
guy it's
that's
Rusty.
right. It is okay. Not the 2015 one,
And I'm
but
pretty sure Chevy Chase and
they're in it. They own a bed and
yeah, yeah,
breakfast. But I'm not counting that one.
that's fair.
That's the only one I haven't seen. But of the original four, I've seen them all, and Vegas has always been my favorite. I've
Yeah.
always thought it was the best. Christmas is good. I mean, regular Vacation and Christmas Vacation, those are both classic movies. But if just as far as like an all-together movie goes, Vacation has a bunch of great parts and a bunch of parts.
There
Chris's Vacation
there's
has,
some parts in Vacation, the first one, they're like, "Ooh."
yeah, and then Chris's Vacation, it's a solid movie all the way through. It doesn't, yeah, I mean it's close. It is very close. I
Yeah.
prefer Vegas because how many curse words did you count in Vegas Vacation?
Well, it's the only vacation movie to have a PG rating.
Yeah, it's clean. I mean, I think there's one part where I can recall him cursing. It's at the dam when he's at the bottom and he's looking for the tour.
Yeah,
That's the only part where he says any kind of curse that I can
yeah,
recall. I mean, and I think it's a good family movie. You could watch. I mean, we watched it all the time growing up.
yeah, we did.
I mean, after it came out, 98,
Yeah,
99.
I mean, retrospectively, I mean, we were teenagers at that point, but
Yeah, but I mean, I'd always catch it, I always watch it, and I never
well,
didn't watch it when it was on.
right,
Yeah,
right,
but like you said, I mean, it was the best of Cousin Eddie.
yeah,
I think it was the best. Clark was at his best.
yeah,
The dynamic between the kids was great. I liked the fact that they were old enough, so it was, they got to go off and do their own thing, so they got to kind of have their own storylines.
yeah.
Whereas Christmas Vacation really took place in an evening for the
There was a
bulk of
few,
the
there was a
for
few
the bulk of
days.
the movie. Yeah, I guess it was. It was a couple days, but it was all centralized pretty much around the house.
It's the house basically, and vacations. You're in the car, you're going with them. This is more widespread family not falls apart, but drifts apart during the vacation. Then they all get back together. So
Right. This is the first one where they're not actually stuck together.
yeah,
So it was more open for them to go on their way. But yeah, also it's most consistently rated the worst vacation movie.
is it?
Yeah. Everywhere I look up for on the internet of like ranking of vacation movies, this is at the bottom.
Oh, I would European
Even
vacation.
yeah, even below European Vacation and below the newest one, the 2015 one.
I have to disagree with that, but
I disagree.
that's
I disagree
that's
too.
just us.
But yeah, from what I mean, if you look even at on Wikipedia,
Interesting.
it did horribly on Rotten Tomatoes and all that stuff. Critic reviews are bad, and I don't get it.
Huh.
But yeah, that was Vegas Vacation,
That was
and now
Vegas vacation.
And now, one of my favorite, I think, our growing favorite part of each episode, it's where we get to find out what monstrosity Marshall has picked next.
So, and monstrosity might be the right word, but
Oh boy.
I know we watched this movie a bunch as kids. We loved it as kids, and it is generally not looked on favorably as a good movie.
That could be a lot of movies.
It could be a lot of movies, but this one in particular has some big names in it.
We already watched Airheads.
We did watch Airheads, and we didn't watch that one as a kid, but this one is, the look on your face, like,
I
"What?
just
What are we watching?"
you keep laughing like
Sorry.
oh,
So,
it's all
yeah,
good.
so we are gonna watch, I would say, the 2nd best video game movie of the '90s with Street Fighter the movie.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I say the 2nd best because I think Mortal Kombat was a better movie than Street Fighter,
Yeah, I do too.
and Street Fighter was definitely better than Super Mario Brothers.
Uh,
Yeah, I in my opinion, and since I never saw the Double Dragon movie, I can't judge that one, so we'll just stick that one on the bottom and say, of the 4, this is probably the 2nd best. But I remember liking this movie a lot, watching it a lot, both of us together, like,
yeah.
"Oh, man, they're doing the thing."
Yeah. So I actually watched this recently.
Did you?
And so probably 3 months ago,
Okay.
if that, because I was talking to Rachel about like video game movies and whatnot and all this stuff. And so I actually bought Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and we watched them back to back, like, yeah, 3 months ago, maybe.
Very cool.
So yeah, no, I'm excited to watch it again.
Okay.
I watched it and, well, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but Yeah, I'm excited to watch it again and to talk about it.
Awesome.
Cool.
That sounds great. I can't wait to discuss this one with you because
Street Fighter.
as
Okay.
much as we've watched it, I don't think we ever talked about it in depth like this. We've done with the other movies, so it should be a lot of fun.
It should be. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right, so I guess that wraps up our episode on Vegas Vacation. Thank you to everyone who came along for the ride on that one. We look forward to seeing you join us again for our next episode where we take a look at Street Fighter. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do so via email at watchitbropodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at watchitbropod. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook page if you are into that instead. Our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilor, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.